do you have a spouse to consider? And this can go a lot of different directions, so I'll let you guys take off on where you want to go first.
Well, I think that the first thing I would say is that what I have seen over the years is people tend to think about their Social Security as a unilateral decision for themselves. And that's really not the case. It really does interplay with your spouse. I know your spouse probably has their own Social Security check coming in, but how those two interact is a one of the complexities, Janet, frankly, of the system, and that's one that we have to work through with each of our clients.
Yeah, we absolutely do not look at it as a his decision and a hers decision. It is a household decision as far as how you decide to claim your Social Security benefits for each of you, because there's a lot of interplay there, and especially if you have a spouse who maybe doesn't have enough earnings credits over the years to have their own benefit, then they can collect a spousal benefit. But there are obviously some rules. I know that's shocking, guys, but there are some rules that go with when you can do that and how you can do that.
How many of the 2,700 are regarding that?
It's going to cover several.
143 to be exact.
John's got the exact number. There you go. So several rules regarding how we, claim together potentially as spouses. And then when you set aside the Social Security rules and you look at just household income, where is your household income coming from? Is it coming from investments? Is it coming from investments and a Social Security check, or investments and two Social Security checks? Again, we mentioned taxes, guys, how all of that interplays together. It does really have to be a big picture. And while we talk about spouses a little bit, let's talk about ex-spouses as well, because that comes into play here.
Well, before we leave the spouse thing, I think that if everything were perfect otherwise, we would delay Social Security until age 70 for the highest breadwinner, usually the male, because the spouse is going to likely draw half of that larger benefit when that male passes away. Now, that is if everything were perfect. But again, it depends on how much money you've got. Can you actually afford to delay Social Security to age 70? That's some math that has to be done on that. But back to Janet's point about the ex-spouse, you can actually have a benefit from a former spouse that could be greater than the one that you have from your current spouse. So it does get into a lot of complexity there, Scott. And then that's when we begin to ask some somewhat nosy questions. Well, how long were you married to that ex-spouse? And then they ask the question, well, if I draw on their benefits, can they stop me, or do they need to know about it, or whatever the case may be? Again, more complexity with the Social Security system.